Joining me today is Mr. Vijay Nirani of the MRN Group with a new initiative of TruAlt Green Energy, which is the subject of conversations of a lot of investments across the world, specially focused on India at Davos. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Nirani. And your attempt at getting into green energy and being the biggest player in the field of ethanol blended fuel, how much of an acceptance and welcoming attitude did you see at Davos from the world community?
Thank you so much for having me on your show, ma'am. This is such a great honor for us. I think Times Group has been doing a great job covering WEF and placing India on a global platform. So I think, so as far as TruAlt Bioenergy is concerned, entire World Economic Forum, the biggest talk of the town currently is of energy, how the world is going through an energy crisis, and Europe has such huge troubles with fuel requirements. And in such a phase when we have green energy coming out from agricultural produce, so we have been getting a very, very warm reception from everywhere. I think the largest of the large companies have, they're giving us grand welcomes. So I think it was a very good decision for us to come into World Economic Forum and showcase what India is doing for the green initiative, the path to net zero, and how agricultural or farmers, the lowest people in the food chain, can contribute to energy requirements.
So, Mr. Vijay Nirani, how does this whole agriculture, economy and green energy really fit into each other? Because this can be a winning solution for a country like ours, where farmers need to raise their incomes, need to bring down their costs and have substitutable fuel requirements, as well as have byproducts from their farm produce which can give them extra money. So how is this being worked on as a principle by your company?
Absolutely. This is a masterstroke, I would say, in what the Government of India has done. Honorable Prime Minister launched the biofuel policy in 2018, wherein he called for the Annadatas to become Urjadatas. So this is in true sense where sugarcane or the broken grains or rice, which has been stored and hoarded for long terms, because we are largely an agrarian economy by large. So more than 60% of our population is into agriculture for their means of income. So in a population like ours and in an economy like ours, I think creating energy from agriculture is, I think, this was one of the biggest masterstrokes. And the Government of India has solved multiple of problems with this initiative. For example, ethanol from sugarcane is not a new thing in the world. I mean, Brazil has been doing it since the last 20 years. And India is currently, we have overtaken Brazil in production of sugarcane or harvesting of sugarcane. We are currently global #1 in terms of harvesting sugarcane and producing sugar. So in terms of the availability of sugar to availability of sugarcane, there was a huge gap of demand and supply, where the demand was much, much lesser and the supply was much higher. So this was a masterstroke where we were allowed to divert these agricultural produce, that is sugarcane, all these fine products that our farmers grow, into creating green energy, green fuel, that is ethanol, that is bio-CNG, that is butanol, which is going to be used for sustainable aviation fuel. And then we have hydrogen coming from ethanol, which is a forward integration from here on. So I think the biggest contribution to this net zero journey is going to be done by the farmers, is what we feel. And that is why the MRN Group, we are very focused on green energy and sustainable business models.
Mr. Nirani, even today, the usage of ethanol blended fuel would be a very small percentage of the overall fuel requirement even for India. How do you see this roadmap going forward? Is it ever, or in how many years are we going to see a substantial substitution? What about efficiencies? And what about the business model? If it doesn't really get to that stage where it makes a substantial, demand need, how do you see this road?
Absolutely, ma'am. I think You're very right in pointing this out. So one beautiful thing is that if you look at the ethanol curve, the supply curve or the production curve so far, right from 2014 onwards to 2023 that we are in now, there has been a sudden upward scale going from 2019-20 onwards. So the government of India had a blending target of 10%, which was to be achieved by 2025. Now they've preponed that target and they've already achieved close to 10%. And they've increased the blending capacity to 20%, for which we currently require close to 1,000 crore liters of ethanol. And I think we're almost reaching that curve where the current capacity of the production capacity in the country is close to 650 to 700 crore liters. And I think, ma'am, out of the 600 plus sugar plants, there are hardly very less number of ethanol production units that are there. So we have taken it very strongly that we need to produce a lot of ethanol because Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers are ready to bring in E85, E40 or E100 vehicles, wherein ethanol blend, I mean, the requirement of ethanol is going to be very, very, it's going to increase to a large extent.
As the world looks at more green and blue hydrogen, cleaner energy, meeting goals, sustainable development goals, where do you see India's role in that business?
I think hydrogen has been a buzzword for across places. So, but the real challenge of hydrogen is how do you store hydrogen and the cost of producing hydrogen. Hydrogen is a very, it is a solution. It is one of the greenest, the most safest means of energy consumption for anybody where the planet is going to benefit by large. But the problem with hydrogen is how do we consume it and where do we consume it? With TruAlt Bioenergy, so ethanol and methane, that is CBG that we are producing, we've got a lot of hydrogen available in both these fuel mixes. That is, in ethanol there is 5 hydrogen atoms and in methane there are 4 hydrogen atoms. And we've got cogeneration power plants in our facilities where the energy required to scrub out the impure particles and get the hydrogen out can be done in a green means. So TruAlt Bioenergy is future ready for hydrogen. But the challenge or the question to be addressed now is even if we start producing hydrogen currently, what do we do with it? So there is green hydrogen being used to produce green steel and green cement. So the MRN group also runs a cement unit. So we can call ourselves one of the first cement plants or the first green cement in the country where we are producing the entire energy required for the cement plant is coming from windmills. But now coming back to the real use of ethanol. So ethanol can be used in multiple of these vehicles that are being launched. That is, TVS is launching vehicles, Bajaj is launching vehicles. 73% of the vehicles that are there are two-wheelers. So once two-wheelers comes, that is the local usage for the bottommost people in the pyramid, including the farmers and including the small or the medium class people. So ethanol is going to be a problem solver for them because ethanol is priced at half of what other fuels that are currently there. So when it comes to hydrogen, hydrogen is going to, we are ready for hydrogen is what it is.
Mr. Nirani, I also want to ask you how can ethanol, because it's farm produce, can it be made in a greater quantity and help farmers as a fuel that they require, maybe even for their tractors, something that can bring their costs down and their productivity up?
Absolutely, ma'am. That's a fantastic point you made. In fact, ethanol and methane. Methane is a very good product for our farmers to use. In fact, under the MRN group, we are working with close to 250,000 farmers. And a very interesting point of how we can produce more of ethanol and increase our productivity is this, that we have seen in the last 10 years that the farmers used to have a yield per acre of close to 30 to 35 metric tons. Now, under our group, we have formed a 100-ton cane growers club where we motivate them, the farmers, train the farmers to produce more yield out of their farmlands. So we have farmers who are growing close to 120 to 130 metric tons per acre as well. So this growth gives us a vertical increase in the productivity. Instead of using more of farmlands, we are growing almost about 3 to 4 times more in per acre yieldage itself. And of course, with the improvement of infrastructure in the country, there's a lot of farmers that are shifting into new farming, cultivatable lands are coming in, this will also increase a lot of productivity for us. And coming back to how farmers are, we are helping the farmers integrate this, the biofuels for them to consume is, the biggest automation that a farmer currently has in our country are the tractors. The biggest expenditure for automation for our farmers is the fuel cost for their tractors. So as compared, we are converting the tractors, the high-speed diesel engine tractors, to methane engine tractors or dual feed tractors, where the tractors can run either on diesel or on methane. So when tractor runs on methane, the cost of methane is almost at 54 rupees as against the cost of diesel, which is at about 100 rupees per litre. So we're not only cutting down on the cost of them, we're also helping the farmers increase their productivity. Another interesting infrastructure that we are helping create for the farmers is that since methane has to be circulated within the community itself or within the close vicinity, we are helping the farmers set up the dispensing stations across the close vicinity itself, where they will get additional revenue from the dispensing stations franchisee. So the farmer will not only be a agrarian where he is cultivating sugarcane, he will also have other businesses like a dispensing station where he will be fueling these tractors of his fellow mates. And the tractors that are coming in, he'll be proud that whatever he's cultivated, the cultivation is going back into the factory under the MRN group, and it is producing sugar, it is producing ethanol, it is producing electricity, and it is coming back to him for him to consume it. So whatever he's producing, it's a beautiful cyclical economy that we are trying to do here.
The question today in Davos is, with the headwinds that the world is facing from an energy crisis thanks to the war between Ukraine and China, where Ukraine and Russia, where no end seems to be in sight, there are energy worries for the world. And we're already looking at several developed countries staring at recession. How are Indian companies like yours preparing for these headwinds that might affect business and the economy?
Absolutely. I think another interesting thing that we are witnessing in the city now in Davos is this, that the entire world is looking upon India, not for India to build for itself, but to build for world. So I think India has had a very, very strong approach with its policies, because we are, I think, one of the only countries, I would say, or one of the biggest economies that is going to be encumbered from the recession that is happening globally. And in terms of the fuel perspective, when we speak of, India is one of the largest consumers of fuel. We import a lot of our fuel requirements. Now that we have policies like the new national biofuels policies and companies like TruAlt Bioenergy and a lot of these green initiative companies that are there in the country, we are not only supplying ample quantity for us, we're not only being indigenous, we're not only being Atmanirbhar, we're also trying to create a lot of these energy, a lot of these fuels that can be exported for the global needs. Now, when we consume for ourselves, we have a population of close to 1.5 billion. We're almost close to being one of the largest populated countries in the globe. And in such a situation, if we are becoming energy resilient, that solves a lot of problems for the global markets. They can have a lot of these energies otherwise. And also we have, we've seen this in during the COVID times also, when the vaccines had come in, India was one of the countries where we did not only take care of ourselves, we took care of the global plethora as well. It is going to be the same with the energy requirements, where we're not only developing for ourselves, for our indigenous consumption, but we are future ready to produce for the globe.
I just want to end by asking one question, and that is India really a sweet spot from the world's eyes? What is the sense that you get at Davos? Or is it really India in this feel-good feeling about itself while the world is going on with its business? Where do you stand on that?
Ma'am, I think we have never seen so much of respect for the Indian companies and Indians across globe. So here in Davos itself, so wherever we go into the Congress or we go into the sessions that we have, we meet the large cap companies, we meet delegates from overseas. They have a different respect for our country and our companies altogether. The warmth and the reception that we get wherever we go is phenomenal. I think this reception has never been there so far. And this is actually a change that has come in. And we can definitely say that we are going to be the market leaders across all the fields that are there available now. So in terms of our company, how we are being receptive wherever we go is, first-hand experience is this, that whenever we go in to meet a delegate or any of the companies that we have here or our counterparts across, so as soon as they say TruAlt Bioenergy and then they say, where are you from? You say India, and then they have a different reception altogether. The globe knows that we have the best skill set. The globe knows, the world knows that we have the best resources. We've got all kinds of resources in the country. The world knows that the manpower that we have are dedicated in achieving whatever they're doing. And the most importantly, the policy makers that are there in the country currently are so receptive, they're so professional. They are more of a corporation than a government now. So they are partners to the business communities, not only as a policy makers, they help iron out whatever problems that we face across the world, across the journey. So this has not only been the experience for us, it has been the experience for many of the companies that we go across, which is exactly why for companies like us, we are getting such wonderful reception. Is we go in and they say, it's India, yes, we love to do work with you. So I think that is a change that has come in, and we thank the government for it.
Well, we hope that euphoria stays and translate into growth in India and growth of Indian companies, not just in India, but on the global map. Thank you very much, Mr. Vijay Nirani, for joining me here on Times Now.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
And on